This is Radar from the Red Table coming at you with another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 220. So I was back to a full week of watching 7 movies. Okay, look, 7 movies. First one I watched was Sasquatch Sunset with Riley Keough and Jesse Eisenberg, which is one of these Sundance movies where apparently these actors like Jesse Eisenberg dressed up in these Sasquatch costumes, and I was very tired, so I may not remember everything, but for the most part, it was a group of 4 Sasquatch, don't know, female, male, if they're both genders, whatever, a little kid one, and then one gives birth, whatever. The whole movie is about them trekking over the North American wilderness, and yeah. And then all of a sudden, some die, some live, and then they see an amusement park. It was interesting and clever enough, but it was just one of these movies that it's an hour and 80-something minutes, so it's not that long. It's out there, weird and interesting enough that you want to sit down and watch it, but it's okay. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best movie ever. It was okay. It's one of those movies that, may get a cult following in the future, but not now. And then I watched Lost Souls, which was about a guy who lives with his friend's mother, is close to his friend's mother and his friend's daughter, his sister, and he's like a rapper, and then he gets an opportunity to go traveling with a group of musicians who are all different races and orientations and culture and ethnicities, whatever, and there's a Hispanic woman that recruits him, and they go touring around Texas. There's some differences between some of them and their backgrounds. It's all the tension of making music and living on in the van and going on the road and stuff, and there's some fights and some some things things that they don't get along, some of them, and then he eventually has it and he wants to go back home, but he finds out that the friend who he was staying with wasn't okay and he missed his friend's funeral, so that was a little bit sad. And there was a lot of hip-hop and rap music throughout the movie, but overall it's what you typically see in a drama. Lots of talking and lots of sometimes boring moments in the movie, and the movie was a 90-something minutes, so it wasn't that long. It was okay. It wasn't that great. It was all unknown people, but it was okay. Then I watched The Old Oak, which is like a movie that is definitely a drama, because it is very much times a lot of talking and a lot of arguing and people not getting along with each other, so very dramatic. So this one was an hour and 53 minutes with credits. So it was closer to an hour and 45, maybe 6, 7, 48-minute movie, so it wasn't that long. But the point of this movie is like a lot of movies. There are people that live in a town for a very long time, and they're closed off, and it's a closed-knit town, and they like the people in their town that are the same as them, and they don't want they don't want anything new. They don't like foreign things. So this guy who owns this like tavern, him and like some of his coworkers and family, whatever, or family friends, whatever, they like help these Syrian refugees that come into England, right? Syrian refugees, because everyone in town is hostile and said, "How dare you come into our town and steal our things?" And they treat them like crap, and they don't accept them, and they bully the kids and stuff. And this one guy, even though he's dealt with losing a wife and unfortunately losing a dog in this movie and all this other crap, and the people in his own town screwing him over and treating him like crap just because he wants to help people out, that they all unite together to rally together as a community, him and the people that were actually trying to help the Syracuse, and then eventually it starts growing on people and they all rally together to help each other. So that is that kind of message there. So it was okay. Definitely a lot better drama than the hip-hop movie I watched, but okay. Then I watched movie Out of Darkness. So this was the second movie that I watched this week where either there was no talking whatsoever like the Sasquatch movie, or they were speaking in some native tongue. And it's about this like tribe that said it's over 40,000 years ago. They moved from they searched for a new home through treacherous landscape. And then something's trying to attack them, and like a typical, like a horror film, not, a drama, this creature's just picking them all off one by one, and you never know who's going to survive. If there's other, towns and things like that. And Chiku Madu is the name of the actor that was in The Good Doctor at the beginning of the show, and then they brought him back for the last few seasons. I recognize him in this movie. Obviously, with his name, I could tell he's not American. But I never wanted to be like, I'm going to assume what race he is or what culture he is. But it was nice to see a guy who I know from a few seasons of a 7-year run doctor show to get to be one of the leads, or if not the lead, in a feature movie. It was a very short movie. It was like 80-something minutes. And unless you know ahead of time and you want the ability to be someone that sits through and read all the subtitles, I don't mind reading subtitles, but sometimes I'm working on my website, I'm doing other things at the exact same time, and I'm not looking to read subtitles. So you have to really pay attention to what's going on the screen. But it was more of just a survival movie of a group of indigenous people, let's say, and them trying to survive at nighttime, and that it becomes a horror film. Then I watched an actual horror film called The Lord of Misrule, where this woman who's a priest or a pastor, whatever it was, she's got the collar and everything. Her husband or kid moved to this really small town. And so you assume, well, it's going to be like a creepy horror film where the town is just overbearing and they have weird traditions and things are just going to be weird about it. And it's going to be a creepy horror film and not like blood, gore, scary death or the other stuff. No, it's just going to be weird, right? So you're watching the movie and things are good. And then apparently this town has a festival every year. And they pick the priest lady's daughter to be the marshal, whatever the real term was. And then she goes missing, and they want to blame it on a town kid, teenager, but it's not. Then there's some guy I've seen before, this British actor, where he's like a weirdo, and he's like, your daughter was not taken by a man or by your God. It can help you. It's from some other weird creature out there. And people are thinking maybe it's because his son was kidnapped and that he may be someone you can lean on because he lost his son to this. All this other stuff, and then it turns into a whole husband doesn't believe the woman that it could be, mythological forces and the police are not going to be helpful instead of relying on the police. Then you had the whole thing is then this town, the guy who's accused of taking the girl goes, I didn't take it, these people took them, and this is how you're going to do it. And then the guy who you think is sympathetic, or along with the rest of the town who really like this new priest, show who they really are. They like pray to this weird creature and devil sort of thing where it's like, I don't know if you would say it's pagan, but it's definitely not Christian. This like cultish following that these people in this town have. And at the end of the day, like she's trying to save her daughter no matter at what cost. And then somehow that weird dude dies, and then screen goes a little bit dark, and then they show her giving a sermon, and then they zoom in on her giving the sermon, and her daughter's right there. Nowhere if the husband survived because he was a cat or nothing, or how specifically she got her daughter back. But movie ends with getting her daughter back. And I'm like, yeah, this was not a great movie. It was an hour and 40-something minutes with credits. Then I watched Who Are You People, where Devon Sawa, people have seen him in movies before. Alyssa Milano is apparently the mother, but it wasn't really about her. And Yeardley Smith was in this movie. Everyone should know her for voicing Lisa Simpson, on The Simpsons. So this is what the cover looks like. It's very misleading because Alyssa Milano's holding one girl, but not the other girl. They don't even show her husband in there or Yeardley Smith on the cover. So this movie is about a girl who questions her whole life, who are these people? She, her parents had a hard time getting pregnant. They went through all these treatments to get these twins, and her parents raised the twin sister way differently than they raised her. Her father just screams all the time. She hates it. Her mother's in her own little world. When it comes to things, I think the father is a lawyer and the mother is whatever. And she's like had it, she makes some bad decisions with a teacher who's like just out of college, teacher who's teaching, and they make out and bring her back to their place, even though he kept trying to say, no, I'm not interested. And of course the parents walk in and they're like, well, you know what? You're a problem child. You're failing classes. You're kissing a teacher. We're going to send you off to boarding school. And she has no friends. And so it's not like she's going to miss anyone. But she's like, are you kidding me? I got to go to boarding school. So they send her to boarding school. But then she figures out a situation where she goes through some letters about some guy who had an affair with her mother. And her mother never told her, blah, blah, blah. So she thinks her mother's purposely keeping away this man who's her father. But here's the thing. He never knew that he had a daughter. So it's like an ambush. She comes and ambushes him. And Yeardley Smith played this called like older cousin or great aunt or whatever. Aunt who's like a Christian lady who takes him in. He has an estranged relationship with his own father. He's had his own demons with alcohol and arrested and all this other stuff. And the whole movie is like him trying to show her that he's become a better person. But he never knew he had a daughter. And she's trying to figure out her life. And, things come to light. So it's like a typical like dysfunctional family drama where, you know, you don't get along with your family and you think you're like, I don't belong here. And then you find out your father's not your father. So it was interesting enough. It was an hour and 47 minutes, so not too long. Then I think the best movie that I watched this week was The Long Game with Jay Hernandez, Dennis Quaid, Cheech Marin, Jenna Lee Ortiz, and one of the actors from 9-1 Lone Star, who was first a Pro B, and then, Julian Works. He was a Pro B in the movie. In the show, he worked his way up to be an important member of 9-1 Lone Star with Rob Lowe. So it's nice that he's in this movie, but it's like the second or third time I watch a movie that's about a high school team, and you know for a fact, if you're familiar with the actor's acting list, that he is not a high schooler. He's not even in his 20s. He's probably in his 30s right now. And let's see how old it says here on the internet. Well, it doesn't really tell you when he was born, so that's not very helpful here. But the point is, he looks like he's 35 because he's probably playing a guy in his late 20s, early 30s in 9-1 Lone Star. But he's like the bad boy. He gets in trouble. He doesn't listen to anyone. He does how he wants. So I like inspirational stories. I like, underdog, come from behind, like you never thought they would win side of story. I like when, you're trying to break the barrier, like an African-American breaking the barrier, Hispanic, anybody breaking barriers that were put into place that should never been put into place. And again, if it's based off a true story, if it's a sports movie, biopic, I like those things. It's rated PG, so the movie is not inappropriate, so kids can definitely watch it. Golf may not be their sport for everyone, nor does everyone want to sit through almost a 2-hour movie, but it's really an hour and 40 minutes with credits explaining what happened. So Jay Hernandez, star of the silly Magnum PI remake, which got canceled and revived. He's like a veteran. He's good at golfing. He wants to golf at this golf course. He becomes superintendent of the school. And I thought superintendent, they were in charge of multiple schools. It seemed like way too hands-on with the school. And the principal was like this character actor that I've seen before. He was like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. And Dennis Quaid was like his officer, superior officer in the military. They got the whole golf connection. He wanted his help building this team. And then he saw these kids playing golf that were Hispanic. And he was like, this is my chance. I'm going to make a golf team. And obviously the guy from 9-1 Lone Star, he is like the best one on the team. He doesn't want to join it. Then he does. He's got his own personal drama with his father not accepting him for being a golf player, his girlfriend, all this other stuff. And now you got the golf teams, the caddies on the courts, the people that run the golf course. Everyone's being racist, the diners, all this other stuff that they're going to. And I felt like it was a quaint movie. Cheech Marin playing the weird, quirky groundskeeper was really funny and interesting. And then it's nice to see a second movie with Jenna Lee Ortiz of Rosewood and Station 19. And most recently, she was in this heist movie before. But it was nice to see that she gets a chance to be in a movie. The guy from, Magnum PI, if he's only going to be famous for being the Magnum PI remake, it's nice he's in a nice movie. Dennis Quaid has been in all the big-time movies, sports movies. It's nice that the guy from Lone Star, when Lone Star will unfortunately end on Fox this year, he can look back on it. He was one of the leads in a big-time movie. Never knew the actors who played the other golfers, but that's not the point. It was just a really good movie that it was an inspirational sports story with some very good actors. So overall this week, I didn't say I watched terrible movies. What I would say is Lost Soul. It really depends on what type of drama you want to watch. Same thing with The Old Oak and Who Are You People. Figuring out your family dynamics. Accepting people who are different. Music careers and the challenges there. If you like odd movies about Sasquatches or indigenous people from years ago trying to survive a horror film or a really weird horror film, that at the end of the day, The Long Game is definitely the best movie I watched. Thanks again for listening to another edition of Movie Observations number 220. For On the Radar Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.